Pretty good.
I had Texas toast this morning. I went out for breakfast with my sister and I was like, I just want a little like taste of French toast. I ordered French toast and I got like a loaf of bread. It was really good. I ate it and then when I left there was a whole plate of bread left. The pigeons got out, so.
Sweet.
Anyways, I've spent a lot of time in Austin actually, not this trip, but when I first started my acting career, I lived in Dallas. This was kind of the time, this was 2000, 2001, and this was kind of the time I was a model. I started modeling when I was like 12 years old, and it took me all over the world. And I'm from Vancouver, Canada. My parents moved to Texas, and I was living in Germany, and they called me and said they were moving to the States, and if I came, I'd get a green card, and I could work here. And so I was like, great, where are you guys moving? New York? And they're like, no, Dallas. Dallas? Wow, okay. So I moved to Dallas, and I have lived in Tokyo and all over Japan and Hong Kong and all these places in Germany, and I moved to Texas, and it was a big, huge culture shock. It is its own country down here, guys. Yep. But I thoroughly enjoy this state that is Texas. I met my husband here. And a few months after I moved here, I realized there was a pretty big modeling market. So I was going to college, and I met with an agency, and they started rubbing me. And this was kind of the time when you were seeing less and less models on the covers of magazines and more actors. And I had done some acting as a kid. I had been in a few pilots. So my agency asked me if I was interested in acting at all, and I was like, yeah, I worked a little bit before, and it'd be something I'm interested in. And so I auditioned for a movie, and I got it. We shot it in Dallas, and then after that, I just kept booking. I kind of got involved in the independent scene, which is so uniquely Austin. You know, that the whole independent, whether it's music, films, anything. And so we did a handful of movies. Everything from shorts that didn't pay to bigger budget independent features to spec shot commercials, and just kind of did a bunch of stuff before I decided, okay, maybe I need to maybe move out to LA. And that's what I did. And then my husband, who swore he would never leave Texas, followed me. And we got married. And we live in LA now. We've lived there for several years. Other than when I work, I usually work in Canada. But it's funny, I always tell my agents, I'm like, we live like 2 miles from Warner Brothers and NBC and CBS, and I have to cross the border to go to work. That's part of the fun of the job. So, I have spent a little bit of time in Austin. Like I said, I did a few independent movies here about 10 years ago, and it's a great city. Got to enjoy Barton Springs on a hot summer day, and the hospitality of all the Texans. But it's changed a lot in the last 10 years, I think. Austin's changed, right? It's grown, but it's very metropolitan now. It is. Yeah.
More Californians.
More Californians. Well, you know, everyone from LA is like, you know, I think I might move to Austin. Like, you like it. They just kind of have this idea, and LA is ridiculously expensive, and you know, it's kind of you have to take like 3 hours to get anywhere. And, it's kind of a drag. It's a little depressing. And the state taxes are really high. And they don't have humongous Texas toast, French toast. And if they do, it's like $25. So, anybody have any questions? Anybody expecting to see another Stargate series anytime soon?
Hoping, praying, dreaming.
Well, I did hear a rumor. I don't know if it's true that Dean Devlin, you know, who wrote the original Stargate movie and licensed it to, or that MGM owns now, is interested in revamping the franchise. I highly doubt that means SGU or SGA or SG1, but I did hear that he had originally written 3 movies and is interested in making the other 2 movies, or a version of them. So I think it might be a positive for Stargate fans.
SGU movie?
No SGU movie, unfortunately, and I'd really love to clarify this. You know, a lot of the negativity about the SGA and SGU movies gets thrown onto Brad Wright, and he's tried. Brad Wright is the creator of the franchise, the TV franchise. And, wrote all the scripts and with, of course, his staff and his team. But he ultimately sat in that office from the day we were canceled until a couple months ago, and sent out an email to all of us and said, I've tried, I've been in this office every single day, pitching this to various networks and studios, trying to get funding, and he got no support. So ultimately they had to strike the sets. And I think what a lot of people don't understand is when you build a movie set or a television set, I mean, our gate room is humongous. It's in a huge, warehouse soundstage. And it costs a lot of money. I don't know that one in particular, but I think the bridge set was like $750,000. They're really expensive, these sets, and they're beautiful. They cost a lot of money, and then you rent the stage that they sit on forever too. So, if your show's not making any money, it's that you're not shooting a television show, you're just paying for the set to sit there. But you don't want to strike it if you have the opportunity to make something new on it, and finally you have to get to a point where you cut your losses. So even the first year of SGU, all of the Atlantis sets were still standing in hopes that they would get the funding for the Atlantis movie. And that never came through. So they struck the sets. And then the second year of SGU, or this last year, they kept all the SGU sets up, hoping to make a movie, and ultimately they struck everything and sold it. So.
Would have they pitched the Sci-Fi Network too, or?
Yes. Sci-Fi Network canceled us.
Sci-Fi needs to be smacked. Yep.
I didn't say that. I don't know how it is to run a network. They based it on the numbers, and they said, it wasn't being watched. And I don't know if that's that they changed it to Tuesday nights and didn't advertise it, or that people were watching it, but not on Tuesday nights live, which is when the numbers matter. And I just think ultimately the whole television world is changing with streaming. Netflix, iTunes, DVR, particularly the streaming. I mean, I just got back from New Zealand last week, and SGU Season 2 starts airing there this week, but everybody's seen it.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at it from a business perspective, and you're getting your advertising dollars, it doesn't make sense if everyone's already seen it. And why should they wait a year?
Yeah.
It makes no sense. So something's got to change. And one of the original thoughts from Brad and Rob, who started SGU, was they would actually not go with Sci-Fi. They ended up doing their deal with Sci-Fi because that's they do have a loyalty there. But one of their thoughts, and I don't know how real it was that they would just distribute to iTunes and kind of cut the network out altogether.
That would have been nice.
Yeah, it would have been nice, and I think that. Because of the strength of the franchise and the international presence that it has, it would have worked. You don't necessarily just need the American viewing audience to dictate your seasons, because they've got a humongous international reach.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everyone from Brazil to New Zealand to, China to the UK and back again loves Stargate. So, yes.
I have a question. Is it difficult for you as an actress when what you're playing on TV mirrors too much what's really going on in your life? Like when you were pregnant and on the show, and also pregnant in real life and having to lose the baby on TV, I could see that might have been like extra emotional and hard to take in real life and hard to play. Was that difficult, or did you go to another place and just see it as completely separate?
Yeah, it wasn't difficult, I would say. I think that I'm really grateful that I was pregnant in real life, and so they wrote it into the storyline, and I'm grateful for that, because I felt like the whole young TJ affair initially was never supposed to be more than that. it was sort of, that was the way they pitched it to us, like, because Louie and I were like, well, so what's the deal with Young and TJ? And they said, you know, it was a mistake, it happened, and now you guys are stuck on a spaceship and you can't get away from each other. And it was really just supposed to be kind of the elephant in the room, and that's it. And then I got pregnant in real life, so it kind of, you know, brought a depth to that relationship that wouldn't have been there otherwise. And then it gave TJ a storyline, because I really felt like that Young affair was for Young's character. It wasn't really for TJ's character, and this gave TJ more of a storyline and I think a vulnerability. But to answer your question, I felt it was always so interesting because I get that question a lot, and my life is so drastically different from TJ's. Like I'm happily married. I'm on my 4th kid. You know, I didn't have an affair with Marianne.
You're not trapped on a giant spaceship.
I'm not stuck on a spaceship.
Not a medical
You know,
professional.
so I don't wear the same clothes every single day. Yeah, so I definitely can detach. That being said, I used to always think like emotional scenes kind of never got to me. I was like, yeah, I'm an actor. I go to work, I laugh, they call action, I cry, I go home. And I realized it probably a year ago or so, because TJ cried a lot in the 2nd season. And I was like, you guys need to rename her to T Cry Big J. But she cried all the time, and I would go home and just be like, whatever. And then I realized I was kind of moody. Oh, no wonder. It's an emotional roller coaster. I actually think I'm happy, and then I make myself cry. So I think that affects me, absolutely. And I can see how you know, if you're conscious of it, you can get over it. But I wasn't really conscious of it. I just thought it was part of the job. As far as losing the baby on the show, they were very, very respectful of my pregnancy and my situation. So towards the end of season 1, we wrapped a couple days before Halloween. I had the baby in December. We went back to work in March. We actually got an extra long hiatus, which worked out well for my maternity leave. But that was just because the Olympics were in Vancouver, and there was a shooting ban. No one could shoot, and it was just, you know, going to be too ridiculous for everyone to get all their cast in and put them in hotels or whatever for the first part of the season. So I said towards the end of season 1, what are we going to do about the baby storyline? And they said, we'll deal with that when healthy babies are born. So we were very, very respectful. It was really nice.